Okay, so this is my second time reviewing the Tamron 28 to 75mm f2.8 Di3 RXD for Sony EF mount. The second time because I forgot to press record on the camera the first time. Total pro here. Okay, so when I entered the Sony ecosystem, I started with this as my first lens. Now, I could have bought a kit lens for a lot cheaper, or I could have gone at the time for the Sony 24 to 70 f2.8 GM lens. Now, the reason I didn't get the GM lens and I didn't get the kit lens, I didn't get the kit lens because I'm an experienced photographer who's been shooting for a long time. I was trying to evaluate the Sony system a long time, my current system, which was Pentax, and I felt it would be totally inappropriate to use a kit lens to make that evaluation. And I certainly wouldn't keep the kit lens on the long term and wouldn't use it in the work that I'm paid to do. The GM lens was far too expensive for an experiment with the system, and also having looked at a lot of the reviews, I wasn't particularly impressed with the image quality. I believe there's a GM2 due out now, and I'm sure that's well overdue. Sounds like the police there are trying to deliver some to the local stores. Or maybe they're headed here from how loud they're just getting. Yeah, so I got this one as basically my introduction to the system. Do-it-all lens. Traditionally, I would have bought a 24 to 70 2.8, and I was worried that I would feel the loss of those 4mm between 24 and 28, and not really feel any benefit of the 70 to 75. And there's some truth in that really 70 to 75 is the difference between going like that with your camera when you're photographing somebody. It's marginal, but the difference between 28 and 24 is much more significant. Now, for me, did I actually miss it in practice? Only under one scenario for me. Now, if you know my photography, and I'm sure I've got pictures scrolling across the screen showing you some examples of images with this lens, because that's frankly the most important thing. Not what the lens can do, what you can do with the lens. So, anyway, yeah, when I shoot family portraits with kids, one of the things I tend to do at some point, either to get the energy up or just at the end to let the kids leave happy, is I get them to stand on chairs, jump in the air, do jumps, hold hands. If you've seen my studio tour video, you'll know this place isn't that big, and the shooting area is only 3 meters wide. And what happens is when kids jump, they go like that with their arms. So you don't want to lose their arms off the side of the frame. And that was the only scenario in which I found the 28 wasn't really wide enough for me. It was what led to me buying as my second lens, the 17 to 28 from Tamron as well, which serves perfectly well for that purpose. But in general portrait photography, headshots, groups, families, social media stuff, event coverage, I found 28 to 75 to be perfectly acceptable for me. I've used this to shoot a few events, having done some social media stuff and some stage stuff for a local gym. I followed them to some CrossFit events and photographed them at the events. And I used this 28 to 75 for a lot of that. The main reason I came to Sony, and what I was worried about when I wasn't going to use a Sony lens to begin with, I came to Sony for the autofocus accuracy, for the autofocus speed, and for the eye tracking. This lens bang on, absolutely no problems whatsoever. Blistering fast autofocus in comparison to the Pentax system I was using before. I have one Sony on-brand lens now, and difference between them is marginal if it exists at all. So yeah, the autofocus is fast, it's accurate, the images are sharp. I do like the colours that come out of this lens. I tend to use a colour checker passport for studio work, and I have a profile set up for each camera and each lens under studio lights so that I can make them all look the same anyway. But yeah, if you're not even wanting to get into that sort of thing, yeah, the colours are perfectly acceptable out of this lens as far as I'm concerned. I've used it since I switched to Sony, I think I've used this lens to film 95% of all of my YouTube videos on the A7III. It's been perfectly good for that. Autofocus and face tracking, absolutely brilliant. It's very quiet. It's plastic build, but it doesn't feel unsubstantial. It's got a little bit of weight to it, but not too much. It's actually a perfect size to go on the front of an A7 III, in my opinion, or an A7R4, which is my other camera. It feels very nicely balanced. It is weather sealed. It has a gasket on the back. How good the weather sealing is, I don't know, because it is an extending zoom. But to be fair, so was my Pentax 24-70 F2.8, which DF8, which was rumoured to be made by Tamron. Although I don't think Pentax have ever actually admitted that. And I never had any problems with moisture on that. I've used this in light drizzle, not heavy rain, and it's been fine. I have seen in some other reviews that people have said that the zoom ring becomes loose over time. I haven't experienced that. There is a G, but the repair seems to be fairly straightforward. And Tamron give you a really long warranty on their lens. It's like 5 years, I think it is, in the UK. So yeah, the manual focus is smooth. I don't really use it much, so I'm not going to comment further because I am not an expert on manual focus. As I say in my lens reviews, it's probably a stretch to call them reviews. They're just commentaries on my personal experience. I don't shoot charts. Found this lens to be very sharp. Certainly good enough for paid work. No problem. I did think when I bought it, there was rumours that there was going to be a Sigma Art 24-70 DGDN coming out, which has since been released, and there are rumours of a 24-70 Sony GM2 coming out. And actually there's a version 2 of this out already. And I did think when I bought this would be a stopgap to get me into the system. I'd either buy the GM2 if it came out, or I'd buy the Sigma Art if it came out. No plans to do that now. The Sigma Art seems to have problems with sucking in dust, although it seems to be perfectly sharp, and I don't miss the 24 enough to get there. The GM2 isn't out. When it comes out, if it's amazing, I might buy it, but at the end of the day, this lens is good enough, and there are other things to buy. If you know me, you know I think lighting's more important as a studio photographer, so I would rather spend more money on more lights than on more lenses, particularly if they already cover something I've already got. So yeah, isn't going anywhere. I'll be keeping this for good. Yeah, so, and it's very lightweight. Well, it's not very lightweight, it's still got a bit of weight to it, but compared to some of that glass that I've owned over the years, it is extremely lightweight. So yeah, just buy one. If you're in the market for a lens for this range, for Sony system, definitely better than a kit lens, just as good optically as the GM. Autofocus is fast. What's not to love, really? You might have some issues with build quality. There are no buttons on the side, so if you're somebody who likes that sort of thing, I don't really care, to be honest. If you're somebody who likes that sort of thing, then bear that in mind. But yeah, particularly if you're a people photographer, this is a great lens. Speak to you soon.